Hello, everyone. I believe we are live in the Low Carb Lifestyle Hub Facebook group, on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. So today I am talking to the wonderful Belinda Fettke, who, if you haven't been living under a rock, you will well and truly know of the work that she is doing and has done. But before I bring her into the chat, I just wanted to share a little bit about how the summit will work. So obviously you can sign up to the summit for free. There are 26, even more, because I've got some bonus presentations in there for you, but over 26 presenters who over 3 days will be sharing, their insight and knowledge that you can sign up to for free. And, the thing with the free sign up is it only lasts 24 hours each day. So after 24 hours, it gets deleted. So the other option obviously is to purchase the summit for the early bird price of $49 Australian at the moment. And that gives you access to the presenters' presentations for 3 years. Plus you get to access a new feature I'm doing for the first time this year, which is to comment and to ask questions of the presenters. And on their day of their presentation, they will check in once or twice to connect with you and answer any questions that you might have. And obviously I'll be monitoring all of that. And you also get access to the MP3 that you can download to listen to. And the other thing I'm bringing in to people for the paid version is their past presentations. So a lot of these presenters have presented at previous summits, and I'm going to share their past presentations for you to watch as well. So there's definitely a huge amount of value. And I can say that this year, every year's been fantastic, but this year is phenomenal. We have some incredible people who are sharing their knowledge, insight, and wisdom. And of course, none other like this wonderful lady, Belinda Fettke, who I'm going to bring in now. Now, of course, life happens, and Belinda's had some things happen this morning, and now she's talking to you on her phone, which of course is absolutely fine. And hopefully the sound is all good. So if you are listening, please say where you're listening from. Say hello. Belinda would like to see you and hear from you as well. But I'm sure you'll be able to hear us fine. Belinda, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. And luckily, I think I'm fairly good at projecting my voice. So it should be okay.
Yeah, well, I can certainly hear you fine. So we'll keep going. But Belinda, you are an incredible person who I personally find hugely inspirational. You've been such a tireless campaigner for uncovering the truth after the horrendous experience that you all had when your husband, Dr. Gary Fettke, who's an orthopedic surgeon, was chased by APRA and, wrongly accused of stuff that he didn't do, really because it all came down to the fact that he had the gall to tell some of his patients to quit sugar so that he didn't have to amputate their limbs. So it's been an incredible journey that, of course, you and Gary would never have imagined would have happened to you, and has propelled you down a path that you could never have imagined was ever going to happen. But aren't we lucky that you have done that, and what you have uncovered has been just phenomenal in terms of the agenda behind the plant-based movement. So, one of the things, sorry for talking, but I just want to share, say, that we know if you're a visionary or a disruptor in this modern world, that can get pretty uncomfortable, and you have to get really uncomfortable with, disrupting people's thoughts and beliefs and really project yourself out there. So what's it been like for you, Belinda, these last, how long has it been? 6 years? 8 years. Oh my goodness. 8 years.
I think it's really important to start off saying that I'm not anti-religion. I'm not anti-vegan or vegetarian. I'm pro-choice. And as you say, I was thrust into this really because my husband had been targeted by the cereal industry because their cereal sales were down, and they determined to silence him from talking about the health benefits of reducing sugar and carbohydrates in your diet. So when I looked and saw what was happening, and I watched Gary and others presenting the science and going blue in the face, I just thought to myself, something's wrong here. This isn't about the science. I'm a photographer by trade, well, a nurse in my past life. And so I sort of think, I was sort of always behind the scenes telling other people's stories. So it was a big thing for me to step out from behind the camera and start talking about the research and my findings. And it actually was 2 years before even Gary publicly spoke about what I was finding. We'd been sending information to the medical board saying, this isn't fair. The expert witness that you have brought in to determine if an orthopedic surgeon can tell his patients to reduce sugar. And remember, Gary's an orthopedic surgeon with a medical degree. He learned anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, like every other doctor. The problem is they're taught that in the first little while of medicine, and then the next 3 years, they're taught to band-aid sick care, to medicate and operate and pretty much forget. It gets tucked into the back of the brain. They've got the idea, but they're so intent on helping all the people who are sick that just come to them. And so I just went, this expert witness that you've brought in, I thought he must work for the sugar industry. So I have to admit, I had a little bit of cognitive dissonance and I went searching to see the connection. And I was really surprised to find that he was involved with the cereal industry and sanitarium in particular. He'd been on their advisory board through a couple of different groups for over 16 years that at least I could find. And so this man was promoting the benefits of cereals, grains and soy, alternative meats and all those other things as the gospel truth and demonizing animal proteins and fats in the diet. And so I guess my research just went from there. What is this doing? I think, how can a cereal industry dictate who can and who can't talk about nutrition? Especially when the medical board came back saying that even if low carbohydrate, healthy fat principles became accepted best practice, Gary could never talk about it. So to me, this isn't the medical board protecting the public, which they claim on their website is their purpose. This is the medical board potentially working with industry and protecting them. So yes, I have gone from behind a camera to in front of a camera and become very, very noisy. And it was confronting at the beginning. I think I'm getting more used to it now. But it's a big thing, I think, to make that change in your life. And as I say, I pretty much had to do it out of necessity. Otherwise, I could have just stood back, but I don't think Gary would have ever been cleared of the trumped up, vexatious charges that were there if I hadn't done my research.
Mm. And the thing too with all that research is that you just found it on the internet. I mean, it's not like it's hidden.
It's all in plain sight. I am not technically minded to be able to hack into anything, all of this, but it's been honestly thousands of hours. There was a time there, I think I spent 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day just researching, and I'm talking years and years. So I have spent a lot of time just collaborating and checking, fact checking, I think. But someone said to me recently that, it's a bit of a conspiracy theory, this whole concept. And I said, well, it's actually not, because as you say, one of the dietary guideline committee members for the US in 2020 was a devout Seventh-day Adventist who, and you've got to understand, the Seventh-day Adventist Church owns Sanitarium in Australia and New Zealand. So this is their commercial arm. And one of the devout Adventists was on the US Dietary Guideline Committee, and he was determining the caps on saturated fat. Well, understanding that the Seventh-day Adventist Church teach that the Garden of Eden diet, which was originally just fruit and seeds, fruits, nuts and seeds, that this is the God-appointed diet for man, Gary wasn't only in trouble for recommending people reduce sugar and carbohydrate, he was in as much trouble for recommending people include animal protein and fats in their diet. And I've looked and looked into this thing. So this man, Joan Sabat, he wrote or co-authored The Global Influence of the Seventh-day Adventist Church on Diet. It's there. I didn't make up that title. He wrote it. And I think it's really important for people to understand it isn't just the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Like this new talk that I'm presenting this time also looks at a whole lot of other religions and the things that they have taught over time as to what you can and what you can't eat. And I think that it's a really important subject to just look at the history of, as my talk is, who decides what we eat, when we eat, and why. But it goes beyond just the church. But to me, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, in all of my research that I've done, are the ones that truly want to change the entire world to eating their way. It is their purpose and their mission. A lot of other religions have quite devout beliefs on eating. And I was chatting to Lucy Byrne the other day and talking about probably the strictest religion in the world is the Jain religion. And they are so strict with non-harming of animals, insects, all the way
Not
down.
bugs.
They will not eat at sunset because of the fear of a mosquito or other insects that come around at that time of night, and they might accidentally ingest them. The true ascetics of the Jain religion do not even wear clothes. The men look quite malnourished. They walk around, they will not use a bowl, they only collect food in their hands, and they'll only eat once a day. So, there's some very, very strict religions about what you can and what you can't eat in the world. But the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is the only one in there that I can see truly trying to change dietary guidelines to align with their beliefs.
Wow. So it sounds like there's some new stuff, new information coming out. I know, Belinda, you've been a little quieter over the last couple of years, and I have a feeling that there's you will be propelled back out there soon with a whole lot of new information that we're so lucky that we get to learn from you. So interestingly too, sorry, Belinda, go. No, you go.
Just this new dietary guidelines, I think it's really important to to chat about that. So yes, sorry, Tracy.
No, go. Well, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, looking at these new dietary guidelines and what they leveraged the questions off for the dietary guidelines in 2013, understanding that unlike the American Dietary Guidelines Committee, which Nina Teicholz uncovered a lot of conflicts of interest, a lot of financial conflicts of interest besides the devout religious beliefs, that really have, I believe, compromised the messaging that has come out. The Australian Dietary Guidelines Committee are very, very clean. I've looked into, a few of us have been looking into their positions. They are pretty much academics that have all been funded by the National Health and Medical Research Council, the NHMRC. And the NHMRC are the gatekeepers of the dietary guidelines. So these people might not have conflicts of interest in working for food industry or pharmaceutical industries or necessarily have devout religious beliefs. But these people, all except for one, have lived their academic careers being funded by the NHMRC, and it's highly unlikely they're going to bite off the hand that feeds them.
Yeah. Exactly right. Belinda, I know that you're talking as loud as you can. I just had someone say, could you turn up your mic? So it's she'll lean in and do the best you can with that. And obviously I'm going to put this is being recorded. I'll make sure it can be heard in the playback. But that's right. They're going to be defending their belief systems. And you and I know how difficult it is for people to really let their belief systems be challenged. And I think what was so disappointing about that is the work that Dr. James Muki did in actually getting these dietary guidelines being put on the table to be reviewed, and then he wasn't even considered to be a part of the review. I think that was just shocking.
It was very disappointing, but in his defense, he has gotten low carbohydrate to be considered in the diabetes guidelines. So yay, James, that's fantastic. And yes, the Dietary Guidelines Committee, though, are just pure academics that have just sat in this space. And as I said before, they've been funded by the NH&MRC over and over and over. They are career academics, and they're hardly going to talk about something that is not the NH&MRC are the gatekeepers of the dietary guidelines. So the challenge will be introducing the concept of low carbohydrate as something that we should be looking at, and not just reducing ultra processed foods. And if we can get a discussion happening, then all well and good, because potentially these people aren't bought off by the food industry or the pharmaceutical industry. So there may be an opportunity, but I'm concerned that the ending will be very much similar to what we've had previously, purely because they're entrenched in this academic model that receives funding from the gatekeepers of the dietary guidelines.